Asia came as a surprise to a lot of the fans in Japan because they had identified all you guys individually with progressive rock or art rock. And Asia was, an out and out pop.
Actually, out of all when did you come up with that concept? Early 70s from.
Well, I'll tell you the story. In the 70s, I started playing in the 60s, but really my professional career started in 1970. And I played with my first real taste of success was with Family and King Crimson, which were considered to be progressive music at that time. And it was very much the vogue then to take an idea, which was basically a 3-minute or 4-minute idea, and extend it to maybe 6 to 10 minutes long. And that was fine for that era, beginning of the 70s. A lot of good things came out of it, and it was a time when audiences were prepared to sit down and listen to 10-minute songs. You could get them played on the radio, no problem. Okay, then there's a big difference between top 40 and FM radio in those days. And gradually, towards the end of the 70s, the word progressive, for me, became a little bit of a paradox, in that what had originally set out to be breaking down barriers wasn't doing that at all anymore. It was just copying what had been done before. In other words, you take a 4-minute song and extend it. So, when it came towards the end of the 70s, kind of moving into a new decade, my own personal preference was to move back towards 4-minute songs. That is, take all the extension of and just give them what the idea was originally. Because I can't believe that anyone starts off with the concept of a 12-minute piece. It has to start with an idea that's small. Even major classical pieces start with a very simple, small idea, and then you expand them as themes as you go along. And so I recorded an album called Caught in the Crossfire in 1980, which was 10 4-minute songs, basically. And that's how the format of Asia developed. And Asia came out to a much broader audience. But I just thought, if we try and do something that had been done before in the 70s, which actually was pretty hackneyed by the end of the 70s, if we try and come out with the 80s doing that, it's going to be, we're going to get slaughtered. We knew we were going to get slaughtered anyway by the critics, because that happened before we even put the record out. They hated the idea of the band. So we thought we might as well be slaughtered for something that we believe in. And I wouldn't exactly say that Asia's music was pop simplistic, because when you analyse the music, if you look at the chord charts, it's even something as simple as Heat of the Moment is pretty complex. But it's very well disguised. The complexity of the music is disguised by the way we choose to put the music over, what is the word? The way we choose to illustrate the music that's there. And I'll use an example, if I may. If you take a song by, say, Steely Dan, a top 20 song by Steely Dan, it sounds incredibly simple on the radio. If you actually try and analyse what the chords are, they're so complex. It just looks like a black page when you write it out. And there's a little bit of that in our music, in that it's not as simple as it sounds. So I wouldn't exactly say that we went for the out-and-out simplistic pop approach, because it's not quite as simple as that. And I don't think we were doing anything dishonest when we came out. Those songs still contain genuine feelings, Okay, they were 4-minute songs instead of being 11-minute drawn-out pieces of art poetry. They're about real people and real feelings.
So not more simple, more short.
Yes, more direct. Yeah.
It wasn't a choice of mine.
I guess the reason why he's approaching this subject is that most of your contemporaries from the 70s have not really followed that course, or probably not even able to take concise 4-minute tunes. Maybe that's why Steve Howe dropped out of the project. That's just an assumption on his part. But,
Yeah, it's a hell of an assumption as well. There's a long story. Well, not a long story. It's a very simple story. That he was the one that forced me out of the group, and when I came back, I was the one that forced him out of the group. It's as simple as that. We just never, ever saw eye to eye on that particular.
In the Go
Steve,
project, he wasn't.
I respect very much as a musician. We just come from different planets, basically, and throughout the first 2 years of Asia, we polarized. We ended up at opposite ends of the spectrum as far as Asia was concerned, and it had to be one or the other. We couldn't both exist within the same group. It's a pity, but that's the way it was. And as my particular personality was more dominant in the studio, so his became more dominant on the live performances, and there was an imbalance there. There was always a kind of jockeying for power, and one of us had to go at any given time.
Getting back to the question there, though, do you think you're sort of the soul popsmith lurking among the more progressive players who aren't going to settle for the 4-minute things?
There are a lot of progressive players that would like to be able to write 4-minute songs, believe me. But what it still comes down to, I think, is can you write songs or not? I mean, anybody can sit at home and write music, if you like. Well, I'm still probably capable of, if I wanted to extend a 4-minute song into 8 minutes. But I know that if I did that I'd be making it for a very limited audience, and it wouldn't particularly be what I wanted to do. I get the most satisfaction out of being able to write a song, go into the studio and spend maybe 4 days building that song up, and then at the end of it, listening back to it and thinking, "Yeah, I like that." And it doesn't. It's not an ego massage. It's just having the ability to create something that is unique. And I suppose any recording artist has the same satisfaction. I just get more out of it being able to produce something of a 4-minute variety.
They want me to approach the song.
エイジャのことを聞いたらば、だと自分
There was when he interviewed Keith Emerson one day. I guess Keith was a little bit critical of Asia, probably not unlike some of your critics in the press there, saying he would rather see people act their age. And in terms of, I guess your approach to the fans, stop robbing the cradle is what he said. How do you respond to that criticism?
That's fair enough. It's his point of view. Yeah. I mean, if there's, I suspect more than a slight flavouring of sour grapes, but yeah, could well be. I don't know. He's entitled to his opinion. I respect the guy very much. He's a great player.
そうって言われるっていうことは
Get into the slanging matches. That's what you want. Yeah.
なんか彼のことをやっぱりご自身が
Rather
Mm.
than trying to incite a slagging match, he was just. I think there's a common thread here to the questions, in that he sort of sees you as a member of a group of musicians, who sort of started a movement and sort of branched out.
Yeah.
He was just wondering, it seems like a very typical thing somebody from that same field might sort of hit you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I would spend the entire day in the hotel room or in my apartment.
Do you think you've been misunderstood
play the show,
by the fellow musicians
after I
as
come
well as
back
the
from the
fans
show,
and the press for that
working
matter?
on the song some more, so it was...
People obviously want to label you.
Possibly.
Progressive.
Yeah, they seem to be hell bent on hanging this label around my neck. If one goes back into my past, and if you study a King Crimson record from 1972, in fact you'll find in there, amongst the mire, you'll find about 4 or 5 4-minute songs in there that take something like On Lark's Tongue and Aspic, Book of Saturday or Easy Money. Basically they started off as 3-minute songs that were actually Book of Saturday stayed as a 3-minute song, and we're going to play that on stage tomorrow night. We played it the other night, yeah. So it's not like I've trying to hide my roots or anything. We still do. In fact, tomorrow night on stage we're doing a UK number and a King Crimson number. So I'm quite proud of where I came from.
Yeah.
It's just I feel that that music has changed, people's tastes have changed. It's great if you want to go back and buy King Crimson records. They're fabulous records, and they're very satisfying to listen to. But I just don't think I could play that anymore. It's a phase I went through to get to where I am today. But my whole upbringing was listening to 4-minute pop songs on the radio. That's that and classical music, and I've arrived at somewhere in between, I think. Using the technology and the technique that you get from classical music into a rock song format.
The only thing that was tough was actually...
逆に言うとその
All I'd say to Keith Emerson was that I detect the smell of a burning martyr.
Meaning you think that he's...
He wants to crucify himself for what he believed in 20 years ago.
Oh, I see, yeah. He sees himself as a victim, but
It really wasn't. It was just getting over the fact.
Yes, yeah, possibly.
I guess your
But
preference for pop music,
different band.
let's just say 4-minute tunes, drop tune, pop
And
music.
so that's
So say your preference for that has perhaps accounted for
I
dropping
show
other
that
bands
it's
after
a completely
staying in it for like a year or two.
it's the same.
Really stayed in one place.
When I was because
So it's
Asia always felt like I was there at the very beginning. I started it, and it was what I always wanted to do. Whenever I would join a band in the past, I would get disenchanted with it after a very short time. In fact, if you look at bands that I've been in, like Roxy Music and Uriah Heep, they weren't great career moves for me, but they were never planned to be such. And what most people forget is London is quite a small place when it comes to musicians. Everybody knows everybody else, and usually you're either with a record company or a management company that has other artists. You get friendly with those artists, and when they're going out on tour or they're going to make an album, they don't have to look very far to find a musician who will fit what they're looking for. And so my joining Roxy Music came by my friendship with the people who were in the band, with Brian Ferry and Phil Manzanera. My joining Uriah Heep was because I'd known the drummer for 20 years, He comes from the same town that I do.
And that's exactly
It was not me thinking, where am I going to go with my career next? It was somebody at the pub saying, hey, what are you doing for the next 6 months? You know, we're going out on tour, do you want to do it? Okay, they weren't great career moves for me, and they were never planned to be such. But it's not something that at that time, you know, I was young, I wanted to work as much as possible, and if I could go out and tour with somebody, it was better than sitting on my thumbs in London, waiting for the phone to ring with, you know, someone with a great record deal for me. Because that doesn't happen. Things happen when you go out there, and it's more likely to happen if you're playing with a band that's selling out Madison Square Garden than it is if you're sitting at home in Shepherd's Bush waiting for someone to call you. That doesn't happen.
I guess thinking back in retrospect, it was almost as if Caught in the Crossfire was sort of the promise, and Asia was kind of the fulfillment.
That's right, yeah, very much so, yeah.
It seemed, I guess it was the real you finally sort of blossomed.
At that point, someone, in fact EG Records, gave me the opportunity to make the record I wanted to make, and I made Caught in the Crossfire. It wasn't really capitalised on until 2 years later, when basically the songs for Caught in the Crossfire and Asia 1 are pretty interchangeable. Really, there's not that much difference.
これが肝心なんだよね。つまりその also feels that Caught in the Crossfire and Asia's first record were very similar melody-wise. It seems like comparing the two, you might say that Asia was more of a beefed-up version.
Yeah,
Thanks to people like Carl Palmer.
Yeah.
That was pretty much the approach you had in mind, just to sort of beef it up.
Yeah, well, if you think that Caught in the Crossfire cost £15,000 and Asia 1 cost £200,000, there's an awful lot you can do with 150,000 quid. You know? I'm not saying that was solely responsible for it. I also had the advantage of working with another songwriter on Asia 1, another two songwriters, Steve Howe and Jeff Dowd. Whereas Caught in the Crossfire was a seminal voyage into songwriting for me. You know, I'd always written with other people, and suddenly there I was faced with the prospect of writing 12 songs, 10 that went on the album, on my own.
It's a wider net, and it's 7.
So yeah, Asia was like a band version of Caught in the Crossfire.
It's a B string below.
Martin Barr played some guitar on it from Jethro Tull, and Simon Kirk from Bad Company played the drums. And there were a couple of other people. Malcolm Duncan, the sax player from the Average White Band. All people I'd known for years and years and years. You know. But I did the bulk of it by myself. I used Phil Manzanero's studio, which is just outside London, and just installed myself in there for 6 weeks with everything I needed, and just worked away at it on my own. Did it on the drum machine first, and then put Simon on afterwards.
Asia has there's a lot of
yeah, it does. 10 years ago. Yeah.
あの当時っていうのは危険があるし
You mentioned a second ago, actually a couple of questions back there, when you guys started out with Asia, did you expect the critics to sort of crucify you?
No, they did. We didn't expect them to. They did.
Oh, I see, okay.
Yeah.
But at the time, it was like, you know, it was like post-punk, you know, new
Yeah.
wave stuff that kind of come into vogue.
Yeah.
Play a chord.
Do you, like you said, like Keith Emerson felt like at the time he was sort of being eaten alive. He was, really didn't have a chance to perform because he was completely out of fashion.
That's right, yeah.
Did you feel the same way?
Yes, I did. And that would have been about 1976, 77. And I really thought I'd had it. If you believed everything you read in the papers in England, if you were over 25 at that time, you'd have thought you'd had it. Because they just wouldn't give any coverage to anybody that wasn't wearing a leather jacket, was under 21 years old, and playing out of tune, you know, or screaming into a microphone. And it seemed like if you had the right sort of plastic trousers on, you could get on to the front of any sleeve. Didn't matter what the music was like. And yeah, it made me feel very uncomfortable, because I mean, I didn't mind another form of music coming along, but when what they were actually saying was everything before that was complete nonsense, and that they were taking over. And at that point, I'd gone around the world with Roxy Music and Brian Ferry, with leaving England with this impression that I'd had it. You know, I'd better find something else to do. And as I went around the world, I went to Australia first, then came to Japan, and as I got further around the globe, I found that the impact of New Wave wasn't what it was in London at all. It was less and less and less. And by the time I got to the west coast of America, I'd been in Australia and Japan. More and more people were saying, "God, can you play something decent? You know, we're fed up with stuff." And I got to the west coast of America, and people going, "Please, please, form a new band." You know? And out of that came UK. I got back to England after that tour, and I already met Eddie Jobson on the road with Roxy Music, and Bill Bruford I'd known from King Crimson. I said, "Why don't we do something?" You know? And really, as a concept, that was a forerunner of Asia, but it was still under the old kind of, if you like, progressive format. But it was, the idea of the band was very similar to that of Asia. You know, was to show a strength from the old guard, if you like.
The second part of the question was like, when Asia sold so well, and I guess you could still consider it part of that post-punk era. It was like 81,
82 we came out, yeah.
It was still, you know,
It
Yeah.
just, to me, I would
Yeah.
personally be
Yeah.
that
hopelessly out of vogue.
in
Sold tremendously.
Yeah.
It must have been like vindication.
It was, yeah, it's great.
Vindication, you know, what you've been doing all along.
Was right, yeah. I mean, we had no idea when it came out that it was going to be so popular. We knew that we had a reasonable platform around the world because of our individual track records, that it would at least get a listen to. You know, that is still no guarantee that you're going to sell records. I mean, the most awesome sort of configurations of musicians who end up selling no records. People don't buy a record on reputation. But they'll come and see a concert, I think. A small number of people will come and see a concert on reputation. But actually get them to get the money out of their pocket and buy a record, a different thing. And we were very, very fortunate. We were in the right place at the right time. And it was just when the post-punk new wave thing was dying down. And what had come out of that was sort of programmed, computery, very lightweight drum machine pop, and I think we just came along with a convincing enough sound at the right time. We were very fortunate, very fortunate.
Yeah, I just brought the two Kansas.
How
about in the 90s? I mean, is there still a place for Asia, for your sensibilities? That's sort of elegant, it's right up to
Elegant.
opera.
Well,
Access.
I would, about this time last year, I'd have been stuck for an answer on that one. But, and I would have maybe thought that we could have been in a bit of a spot. But we put Days Like These, the new single out in America, and went straight to number one on the AOR chart. So that tells me that the radio is ready for something different again. Because I think that radio, since the two formats virtually amalgamated, Top 40 and AOR are now almost the same thing, it's become dominated by kind of one-hit wonders. And okay, as good as rap is, very rarely does one artist last for more than two singles, right? It's very disposable. Kylie Minogue, okay, she gets 3 number one singles, but she can't sell a ticket. You know, that's no offence, Kylie. You know, but you see what I mean. It's very disposable. And when we put Days Like These out, nobody knew what the reaction from radio was going to be, and they liked it. And yet, people up to that point have been saying that Asia had it as far as radio were concerned. It was something that had a heyday in the early 80s, and they didn't want to know. And that just proves to me that we're in the right place again, you know, at the right time. In the beginning of a new decade, what can we do? Have a go. Have a go.
So what's your phone? Not something, just the last question here to set the record straight.
Yeah.
You guys, I believe it was called Asia in Asia,
Yeah.
the MTV thing.
Yeah.
Which samples
Yes.
I guess you dropped out and Greg Blake came into place.
Yeah,
You said a lot of the fans were looking forward to seeing you.
yeah, I was disappointed
Oh,
that
that's
I
what you're
didn't
talking about
come.
with Steve Howe. I nudged you out of the band.
Yeah, I didn't leave the band. I was informed while I was on vacation that I wouldn't be required.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I
It's
run
extraordinary.
them back into my mixer
Inform you of that.
with just all the effects.
Well, I spoke to Jeff Downs from. I was on holiday in France. We'd just come back from a quite exhausting tour in '83 of the United States, and I'd gone on vacation. The MTV thing was already set up, and I was quite looking forward. I was very much looking forward to coming to Japan because it'd been great for me, through the bands that I'd been in. And that to me would have been like the crowning glory. I would have loved it. And I called Jeff up to say we'd better get together again. He said, I think you should go back to London because his exact words were, Brian Lane wants you out of the band. He was our manager at that time. And it seemed that his influence over the band extended such that he could implement a change of that nature.
It must have been like a real shock.
Terrible shock.
Yeah.
Terrible shock.
How did you count?
Right, well, it's just a MIDI controller board.
I got
There's no effects in it. It just
a lawyer that was equally high powered as theirs was, who told me I could stop it if I wanted to. Yeah. I chose not to because I don't particularly like the thought of stopping other people from working. And I wouldn't have liked it if the boot had been on the other foot. And if I had been the one in power at that time and squeezed someone else out, then I wouldn't have expected them to stop me from working. So, at the very last minute, I said, no, let him go ahead with it.
What's that?
But that's
I do that, but
that's not quite as altruistic as it sounds. But I didn't want all the sort of mess that would occur if it got into a courtroom. And I don't suppose they did either. But no, it was a very unhappy period in my life, and it gave me a couple of personal problems that I just sort of really come out the other end of now.
Is that right? Things kind of snapped back right after that. You really dropped out very quickly.
Yeah, within a month of doing the Asia and Asia thing, they asked me to come back into the band, and I sort of said, "Well, thanks, guys. Thanks." But it was something that I felt that I'd started. There was my baby, and I wanted it back. I wanted it back so bad. Half of me now says I shouldn't have done it. I should have just carried on and gone somewhere else, got another record deal, and done what I wanted to do. But it was something I wanted back so badly that I would have chewed through change to get it back.
Have you ever had trouble broaching the subject with other members since then? Like, come here, Jeff. Can we talk about what exactly happened there? Have you ever gone back?
In bits and pieces. I found out very early on that it was something that people were reticent to talk about. They didn't want to come out with the full story. I don't know why that was, but it was. I actually feel that this possibly would eradicate the ghost forever, actually having come to Japan, and if the rest of the concerts go the way the first three have gone, that'll be it. And there won't be any doubt in anybody's mind anymore. It's something that always comes up in any interview that I do, this is the first time that I felt actually qualified to talk about it.
Have you ever had a chance to talk to Greg Lake?
No, I've seen him socially a few times.
And I spent about 3 years before you.
The way he sees it, and I can't speak for him because I can only speak for myself, but is that I replaced him in King Crimson and he replaced me in Asia. To me, it's not as simple as that, but
I guess you can't think like that.
No,
Poetic justice.
Yeah, right. But
It still has too many.
no, I mean, I think if that
First off, the guitar
incident in '83 hadn't occurred, then something else would have happened that would have thrown us off course. But it certainly did a lot of damage as far as I can see. Yeah. And it's taking a long time to repair that. I hope now we can look at that as a burned bridge and carry on from there. But thank you for the opportunity to talk about it.
It's on the record.
To share it.
But there's just one more thing you want to
そのライブの初日の
how
ラ
the
イ
show you recognized the UK song,
Oh, yeah.
the Crimson song.
Yeah.
And you said that they were definitely John Wetton's pop, but done in the immediately identifiable Asian style. You said it seemed like sort of proof of your own confidence in what you do. It sort of radiated that kind of
And so you
feeling,
get
This is a man
things
who
like
obviously,
squeaks and
has his own style.
pops and-
He's very comfortable with it.
Yeah, I do feel comfortable with it. Thank you very much. Yeah, I do.
I guess I don't echo a lot of the comment on it. It's pretty much his observation.
So what they've done since then, then they came out with guitar setup, which are all high
Good,
E
good.
strings, are all high.
I guess I sort of he's reflecting back on what we were talking about a second
Because
ago.
the
how
string sends
for a while in
out
the late
pure
'70s, there you sort of fell out of vogue.
Yeah,
People recognize
With
all
this,
I hope so. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
playing guitar.
I just wanted to ask personally. It's actually his interview. I'm
So you
just
have,
going
I
to
have
interpret
my
but
straight guitar sound coming out of my
looking back
then I have the synthesizer.
at sort of the history of what you guys have been doing, it seems like kind of the voice of England, because a lot of the young English musicians will sort of attempt to take on an American style.
Mm.
George Michael is an excellent example.
Yeah.
What you guys were doing in the '70s was just sort of, it wasn't from the continent. It definitely wasn't American.
No, it's just
It was English.
yeah.
And what you're doing now is all, still sort of carrying on that grand tradition.
Yeah, I won't try and pretend that I wasn't influenced a lot by American music. I was. Particularly when I was about 16, I suppose 66 through to 69, I was listening to a lot of American music. And one of my major kind of crossroads was a song by the Beach Boys called God Only Knows. And that, for me, was a landmark. Well, I think it was on Pet Sounds, wasn't it? I got it on the radio. Radio Luxembourg were playing it, and we'd had the Beatles at that point. We'd had the beginning of the Beatles, and nobody had ever put stuff in such a production context with such a beautiful song, beautiful lyrics.
I think I know what you're talking about. The irony of that is that was Brian Wilson's answer to Sartre.
That's right. Yes, it was. Yeah, yeah.
That was his answer to the English.
That's absolutely right. Yes, his counteraction.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
One reason.
And the song that I wrote about that song many years later was "Voice of America," which yeah, that's about that song.
Was on what? Voice of America?
It's on this new one, Then and Now, but it was taken from Astra, the third album.
Was that right?
Yeah.
One band that has struck me as sort of carrying on the grand tradition that started as It Bites.
Yeah.
That's what you mentioned.
Fabulous band. Fabulous. One of the few I've seen in the last 5 years that are actually in that vein. I heard they just broke up.
Is that right?
I just heard they just broke up, but I wouldn't like to be quoted on that, but that's a tragedy if they do. I mean, they've had a tough couple of years, but God, everybody has a tough couple of years, It's not all sold-out concerts and hit records, But because they were all old friends, I thought they might be able to weather it. And I only said to them last year, when they played these concerts with us and the Beach Boys in Germany, that they were doing exactly the same thing that UK had done 10 years before. They'd played, they got to a certain level in Europe, they'd done a Japanese tour, and then they were doing with Jethro Tull headlining, and they were opening for them. Right. Exactly what UK did. Only we broke up at the end of that tour. And I said to Frank Dunnery, I said, I'm so glad because I know you're not going to break up.
Well, let's hope that's not true.
Because what they were doing was a mirror image of what UK did 10 years previously. And now I hope they're not broken up.
Where did you hear that news?
Someone told me from our management, our old management office told me.
Is that right? Yeah. Hearing younger guys perform that kind of music, how do you feel about
Oh, great. I got on with them so well. I went to see them at the Marquee in London about 3 years ago, and they just blew me away because nobody plays like that live anymore. The harmonies, fabulous players, fabulous. And, when I went to the dressing room afterwards, and they could actually quote verbatim passages from UK albums and stuff. It was brilliant.
What's that?
And they came from exactly the same roots that I did, and they virtually played all the same clubs and all that. But I haven't seen another band like them. There isn't another one around like that anyway.
It's interesting you say that because I'm kind of searching around for it.
So it's only
press clippings on
guitars that are
nobody writes
very
about
younger,
them.
right?
The stuff I've seen has been very sort of snide. The press sort of takes punches at them,
Yeah.
Worthless and unfashionable and boring they are.
Oh.
This
Really
kind of
good.
stuff, I said, here's that voice of England again.
Yeah.
We've sort of been missing for the last several years.
Did you hear that on the last album they put out? It was called "Eat Me in St. Louis," in St. Louis, and there was one track called "Underneath Your Pillow."
Yeah.
Yeah, I give it a...
Magic,
Isn't that amazing? Yeah.
absolutely gorgeous. It's like Beatles. You know.
Oh yeah, well, you listen to it, it's like you want to hear it again.
Yeah, again, I played it all night when I first got that tape.
You're fantastic.
Yeah. I hope I haven't broken up. So one glimmer of light. You see that the terrible thing about England is if you get a glimmer of light like that, you snuff it out. You know, oh no, we don't have success. No.
I guess you learn a lot about
The English psyche is so geared against success. It's terrible.
Well, I think
Terrible.
that gets successful is fashion. If somebody considers you unfashionable,
That's it. Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
There's no room for it.
You know, you get. Sinead O'Connor is everywhere at the moment, right? She's had one fucking hit with a song she didn't write, and suddenly she's been treated like a goddess. You know, the muse. And this time next year, who's going to be?
No, actually, it is... the main
Yeah.
one I had...
All right, well, thank you very much.
Okay.
It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. Thank you. Thanks very much. Thank you. Thank you.